We are the American Indians. Copper color Indians, baby. A real Indian, American Indian is me, not from Africa. Remember that.
African Americans here, but they recently moved here from places like Kenya, Ethiopia, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Zaire. But now the brother whose family's lived in this country for generations, occupying space in all the locations, New York, Miami, LA, Detroit, Chicago, even if he's wearing a dashiki and sporting an afro. And if you go to Africa in search of your race, you'll find out quick, you're not an African American. You're just a black American in Africa taking up space. Why you keep trying to attach yourself to a continent where even if you got the chance to go and you went, most people that wouldn't even claim you as one of them, as a purebred daughter or son of them. Your heritage is right here now, no matter what you call yourself or what you say. And a lot of people died to make it that way. There are some...
And we are not Africans. We are not African. Are you an African, baby? I'm not no African. Nigga, you a lying motherfucker. This nigga talking about we African. You African, nigga. I ain't African.
Time's been moving slowly, so we already in too deep. Can't get no sleep on each other, heavy teasing all day. And when the sun sets, you asking me to come through, kick it with you. Night turn to morning dew, then you let's face it, baby, you know all the places. My place is your place, my place, your place, my place. Just face it, no one knows my places like you do. Your places like I do. Got the key to the lock, we in our own zone. Make yourself at home, get to know mine on the inside. Can meet at yours next time. And you feel refreshing, lose control. You don't wanna go slow, for sure. We both already know your place is my place now. Let's face it, baby, you know all the places.
You know what? It's the only message I got for today. This song speaks volumes. Hey, cuz, you know what? You always come at the right time, Tiffany.
Alright, so far where I come from.
Jeremiah.
I sit and wonder about the times that it made sense, but nowadays I don't worry about what's past tense. My younger days I used to hang around with mad friends. If we just fell out, I don't really know what happened. A lot of people come around to keep you stagnant, distraction. So yeah, don't show them no compassion. We was really out here grinding, really rapping, stacking them Franklins, them Grants, and them Jacksons. Imagine if we would've never chased our passion, we probably would've never knew what happened. They was all just talk, we showed action. Once they leave, don't you let them back in. Just pack up all their stuff and send them packing. I'm blacking on anybody thinking they could act up with me. This vibe ain't for free, cause where I'm at in life, I'm only focused on me. Note the self, know yourself, focus on your health. They don't wanna help, then fuck it, do it by yourself. Don't give them no excuse to put you on the shelf. If it's me, myself, and I, then it's no one else. Yeah, self-love is the best love. It's the people who always give that never get love. They ain't real enough to probably say they messed up. Just let it go and make the best of it. Yeah, self-love is the best love. It's the people who always give that never get love. They ain't real enough to probably say they messed up. Just let it go and make the best of it. Love yourself.
Yeah, practice what you preaching, but clearly they not practicing entitlement and pride. Yeah, those two things they factor in. Spiral out of control just from all the bantering. When they accustomed to talking behind your back with all that chattering. I remove myself before I abuse myself. Talk about self-love, but you gotta do it yourself. Yeah, I won't act too good for no help. We all healing now. Said some things about me that ain't true. How you feeling now? Even at my lowest, they tried to find a way to bring me down. Big y'all up for years, ain't talking just the brand or the sound. I don't throw things around, I do it from the heart proud. Mama just wanna see her sunshine, removing them dark clouds.
Yeah, self-love is the best love. It's the people who always give that never get love. They ain't real enough to probably say they messed up. Just let it go and make the best of it. Yeah, self-love is the best love. It's the people who always give that never get love. They ain't real enough to probably say they messed up. Just let it go and make the best of it. Love yourself. Yeah. Conscious.
Hey, y'all. What's good? So, first thing I want to say, shout out to everybody watching. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Hey, cuz, love you. Hey, cuz, I'm going to put the link in the chat. You got to click it. Come up and say hi to me. I miss you so much. You always show up, boy. I swear, that blood, it always pops up. There's the link, Tiff. Click that link, and it'll bring you up here to where I am. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Pro Bono Smoke. I appreciate it. Belosio and Dig American Seminole Indian. Man, Sylvia Jones, Jeremiah Myers, Pro Bono Smoke, Big Dog, Philly, Chi-Chi, Enots. Salute y'all. Listen. M. Brown. Oh, thank you, M. Brown. Thank you. Yep. You know, I wasn't gonna come live this early, but I don't want to be on live later because I got too much stuff that I have to do. But I did want to come on to say a few things. I was on Chief Holiday Piano with DJ Cut, you know, and then I went to Lex channel just to visit, you know, people that frequent my channel. But I just want to truly say this. I do want to talk about that HR 40 naturalization bill. So if you're out there, Ali Boumai, welcome to the panel. Oh, let's see. I hope to personally get in touch with you in some time, and I'd rather pay you to help me find my family some silly DNA. Oh, pro bono, all you have to do is send an email so we could set up an appointment for you, sweetheart. I'll give you my email because I know you've been trying to reach me, but they always do forward it to me. Okay. Send me a quick email and we can set something up. Here's my email. I want to say this. You know, people like to say things to discourage you, but you can't discourage me once we got something already set up. And I'm going to say this, and I think it needs to be said. I'm the face of Waya because I'm always on YouTube. I have my own channel, and all you've ever really seen was my face. But The truth is, I'm just a face. Yeah, I'm chief, but listen, I, we have chiefs across the state. And when they say yay or nay, I humble. I have to. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a tribe. It's what they say go. If my chiefs come up to me and say, look, all it takes is one. We on this laterally, equally. It's not I got this power, you got that. That's not the way it goes, Waya. When my chiefs say something to me, I adhere to it. And I respect them and love them just like they came out my mother's womb. And I mean that from my heart. I mean that. We rock together. And if my chiefs say, fuck no, hell no, I'm taking heed to that. I'm listening to all my chiefs. And I don't make decisions beyond their control. I'm not going to do that. Don't work like that. I rather work together. And we work together. And that's a fact. And I call growth expansion. When you're able to start expanding, that's growth. And that's a fact. And we are expanding. Our doors will be closing soon to Waya Nation North. It'll be closing soon. And all you that signed up, you will get an email for new member orientation. And you're going to, new member orientation, I can tell you now, is going to be June 16th at 6 o'clock Eastern time. Because we have to make up for the West Coast, those on the West Coast that join. So we try to be sensitive to the time zones, the 3 hours behind. So if it's 6 o'clock here, it's 3 o'clock there. So they can move. It gives them time to juggle things around to be able to make new member orientation. You have to come through new member orientation. Without new member orientation, you can't even move to the next stage because that's where you determine if you want to be a part of Waya. That's when you learn our bylaws. It's what we live by. It's why we're still together today because we honor our bylaws and we're sticking to them. We're not moving in no other direction. And we don't make changes for nobody's convenience in our bylaws. They're stuck. And that's the way it goes. I want to say this because we never really put Waya's face out there. But I said to my chiefs, we really got to update our website. And our website is under construction now. So it's being updated to reflect our face and who makes decisions. We have a lot of men in our tribe and we have a lot of sisters. Okay? So we have men and women in our tribe. This is not a cult. We're a nation of people from many unrecognized and recognized tribes across these 50 states. And that's a fact. And what the photo I was showing you, and I want to share this with you, our shot callers. We not playing. We're not. What you see here is Waya. All of our chiefs in different states, starting with myself, Connecticut, Las Vegas, Ohio, New Jersey, Florida, Louisiana, California, New Jersey, Texas, New York, Oklahoma, Florida, Connecticut, Texas, California, Virginia, Tennessee. This is Waya. And we have our system set up the way we're comfortable. And that's a fact. And it will be open to the public once we're finished with it. But we are who we are. And we hope to grow into sovereignty like the other tribes that have casinos. We that's what we're looking forward to. That's our goal. Some people have a militant mindset and look to do things in a militant manner. Not us. Not us. So it's all about who you vibe with. And I'm not vibing with no militant, trouble starting, motherfuckers. Yeah, I'm going to say it like that. We're not looking for that. Militant-minded troublemakers that want to start trouble with the government and other tribes and shit and all. That's not our image. That's not who we are. That's not who we're going to be. And that's not who we're going to turn out to be. So if you're looking for that nation to join, that's ready to go to war and all this other shit, that's the nation you want to join, not Waya. It's not Waya. It's not our arrogance and it's not our attitude. We're into lecturing our people in the most civil way as possible and teaching our people in the most civil way as possible. And that's a fact. We're not looking to make trouble and cause trouble. See, that's why motherfuckers always getting arrested and going to jail and being spied on and watched on. Because you say stupid shit on live public media, you give them a reason to want to come after your ass. That's not what we want. And those are not the hothead motherfuckers we want in our nation. So with that mindset, don't even bother to join. Really. Save us. Save us the headache and let somebody else get join in your place. Don't just join just because you think you're going to come in and break shit up, because we'll kick your ass out quicker than you walk in the door. We do not play. We're very serious. And that's a fact. We're very serious. We want to establish positive relationships with our people across these states. With us, it's about transitioning the horrible behaviors of our people across the states. That's what it's about to us. It's not about making Pookie bow down. It's about transitioning his mindset. Because for a lot of years, Pookie's been hurt. But we have to let them know that we're not here to hurt you or to put you in a position where you be hurt. That's not our thing. So if you the badass and you got all the ammunition, go ahead, go for it. And good luck. You the badass with all the ammunition against the corporation. Go ahead. We want to be peaceful and live peaceful on our land like decent beings. Seriously. If the ancestors so-called called you to go to war, good luck. I wish you the best of your future endeavors. Seriously. In our nation, we promote establishing individual family tribes. You must. That's a must. You're supposed to do that. But it ain't none of nobody else's fucking business. And on the other hand, some people are angry deeply because they couldn't establish people to come and join with them and buy land. Some people are very angry about that, but I don't give a fuck. That's not my problem. Look within yourself as to why people don't want to build with you. That's what I say. If people don't want to come together with you and build a nation, look within yourself as to why people don't want to do it with you specifically. That's the way I see it. Seriously. My haters are always going to be haters, but that's their fucking problem. It's them losing sleep, not me. I'm not going to lose sleep over a damn thing. I'm going to sleep good at night, and I'm going to wake up the next day and keep it moving. For real. You have a plan, you have a goal that you want to reach, start reaching it. Sometimes you might feel like you're by yourself. But see, when you start feeling like that and the ancestors got a strategic plan laid out for you, you need to start it. Seriously, start it. Because you're not going to always be alone, because people are going to come with you and they're going to walk with you together. Get it popping. Don't just talk about it, be about it. There's been times in the beginning that I felt alone, but then when all the brothers and sisters start coming, it was the best feeling ever. And it still feels like that way. Every time I see who's part of Waya and who I'm in there with, it always feels good. It always feels like the first day. It always feels like that person that comes to you and say, "Hey, I want in. I want to help. I know I could be strong in this." And it always feel good. I get to see those people every time we go in a meeting and talk with them. Best encouragement in the world. Best encouragement. For real. So my thing is, if you're establishing a nation, sovereign or government, get it popping. Get it popping, please. Do not stop. Don't. Because no one's going to help us but us. And that's the truth. No one's going to help us but us. Every foreigner that comes over here is for himself or herself. No one's coming over here to help us from a foreign country. We're pretty much on our own, and we always have been. And unless we come together, that's when it's going to work. Now, all the tribes were not together. That's why they were in separate areas of the North American landmass. It's not meant for all of us to be together. Y'all know a million niggas can't be together in one room. Got to spread out and have space. That's the way I see it. And in the end, when you need to come together, you come together. And you do what you got to do together, and then you go back home, right? That's the way I see it. A bunch of us establishing a bunch of bringing back the dead tribes, bringing back the tribes that have been made black, dead, void, bringing back the tribes that have been unrecognized. You got to understand, when you see the Six Nations, like Cherokee being the biggest, everybody thinks that it was taken. You're not banned from starting your own. If you are Cherokee, seriously, you can reestablish your own Cherokee tribe if you have ancestors that were Cherokee. You don't have to go under them. You got to remember, a white person or white people that claim to have Indian ancestors reestablished the Cherokee Nation based on who they said their relatives were. And you can do the same fucking thing. You got a fifth generation grandmother on the rolls. You can start. You don't have to join the white nation. I mean, we didn't come from white people. Obviously, that's clear. So start your own. Don't worry about them, because they're not worrying about you. See, some people feel you should establish it and then let them be. No, fuck that. Do it yourself. I'm not your dog. Do something for your damn self for a change. Make yourself proud of yourself. Seriously. I'm going to keep moving without discouragement. I'm proud of where we've come from. It's insane. I never thought we would expand this quick. But I'm looking forward to working in the North where I know a lot of people. I was raised here all 56 years of my life. And I did not create enemies in the state I was born in. So I'm looking forward to as much as help I can get possible. I never turn down help, real help. You know, we have to take it slow with our people. I mean, if you're a person who don't have a pension and probably getting a piece of shit amount of Social Security, about $600-700 a month, then it's easy for you to say, I want to go sovereign. When you ain't got shit to lose, it's easy to be a sovereign. Homeless people, it's not a problem. They're used to living homeless and nothingless. I'm not. I look forward to living off my pension and Social Security when I retire. The fuck? Give that up? I don't give a fuck what nobody say. You don't have to give it up. I'm not giving it up. I'm going to make sure because I'm not giving it up. I'm collecting my shit. I worked for it all my life. Not on the backs of nobody. I worked for my pension and my Social Security all my life. And it's what I look forward to. So, I might not be the one you want to rock with. Rock your ass on and go with people that vibe the way you do. Because I got shit to lose and I'm not trying to lose it. I don't give a fuck if you say, oh, but you can know. I'm making sure I don't. I'm making sure I don't. So you do your shit and let me do mine. And the beautiful part of it, I got people that vibe with me that's waiting on the same shit. And I'm going to keep it moving. Don't try to and push on me to give my shit up. Give up your shit. Most people that talk this shit ain't got shit. So it don't mean nothing to them. So you be careful to them motherfuckers. The ones that ain't got shit. If your ass sitting home collecting disability, shut the fuck up. Because that means you ain't got shit. Seriously. So it's easy for you to be angry and miserable when you ain't got shit and just sitting home collecting disability and just downgrading people that refuse to get down to your level of not having shit. I worked hard for my shit. Y'all give me a minute and I'm going to get into the HR 40 naturalization bill because I find it very interesting. So give me a minute.
What's good, Dama? ISO to the ND, yeah.
Open up the door, watch all the G's forward. Smoke clouds follow while we hit another quarter. 50s in a carry-on, feel like a transporter. It's a privilege to know me, that's 100 on my broski. 1-2 punch, damn this thing hitting fully. Fresh pot of gumbo and we back up on our bully. Beat by Dama, shout out to the boy Cookie. Now I'm everything I could be, shades on with a hoodie. Off a little something so you think I got my eyes closed. These is one and none, no baby, these is not those. Getting so much chicken blockheads out of tacos. Getting so much packs like we gotta scan a barcode. Getting so much A, cause we working out of ISO. Should've went Indies, but you didn't, now you dry snow. Baby come to Brooklyn, yeah, you know they moving shutting stone. Told her pull it over, ain't gotta read no rights though. Everything a process, checking in deposits. Got a shoe closet, many complex closet. He a true prophet, in a true pocket. Racket club days, yeah, we used to be on Moffitt. Getting so much, what was so much in this world? Mine is what you make it, then every day's a turn. I ain't never settled, so you better up the skirt. Put the pedal to the flirt, yo, check the dashboard. Getting so much, what was so much in this world? Mine is what you make it, then every day's a turn. I ain't never settled, so you better up the skirt. Put the pedal to the flirt, yo, check the dashboard. Cause they open up the door to G's forward. Smoke clouds follow while we hit another quarter. 50s in a carry-on, feel like a transporter. It's a privilege to know me, that's 100.
Okay, so let's get it popping. I wanted to talk about this naturalization bill. I just found it to be very interesting. And I have questions. 1790. This was March 4th, 1790. And it's a bill to establish an uniform rule of naturalization and to enable aliens to hold lands under certain restrictions. Now, this shit is funny because I'm willing to bet that Negroes was involved with this. At least I'm just making an assumption. I was not born in 1790. But the fact that and to enable aliens to hold lands under certain restrictions was crossed out, that seemed like some Negro shit right there. Like, telling hell no, we is not putting that in here. There seems to have to been a fight. Why is my phone acting crazy? Okay, there it is. Oh, my phone was acting mighty crazy. I got to see where you guys are. So I'm wondering who would scratch that out? Who would scratch that out, or was it highlighted? Now, if this was done in 1790, I doubt it if that was highlighted. It looked like to me that it was crossed out. That's what it looks like to me. I don't know if I'm wrong with that. I want to know if Negroes literally crossed that out, saying, the Aboriginals, in 1790, because this is like a couple of years, 1776 after the Revolutionary War. And I'm wondering if our people crossed this shit out, because if they did, that shit is funny. If that was what the fight was at that time, is what I'm trying to figure out. Did our people, when they were trying to draft this bill for people to come over here, did they cross out like, hell no, we're not letting these foreigners come over there to own land and stuff? And then it gets into, that's one thing I wanted to ask Ali Bamu, is if they were fighting, like when they were brainstorming the draft this, did they literally scratch that out and say, no, no. And then it says, be it enacted by the Senate and House of American. Oh, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled. So we looked at all the dates when most of the states ceded to join in the Union. That any alien other than an alien enemy being a free white person. So they're saying other that any alien other than any alien enemy. So who would be the alien enemy? If we took that off right, that any alien, okay, and we took off other than an alien enemy, and we just said that any alien, comma, being a free white person. So now we know who the alien is. It's a free white person. But we're determining now who is an alien enemy. So we know that the alien is a white person. So are they saying a white person that's not an alien enemy? Is the question. That's the question I have. Who shall have resided within the limits and under the jurisdiction of the United States for the term of 2 years may be admitted to become a citizen thereof on application to any common law court of record in any one of the states wherein he shall have resided for the term of 1 year at least. All right, so now I know Alabama was saying, where's the common law court? Well, I do know that, okay, go back. Okay. So here we go. It's streaming. I don't know why my shit's streaming. So now we're gonna attempt to find the common law court. So if you look at when all the states ratifications, if you look at the ratifications where it says 1787 to 1790, the Indian territories became states. So by that time, the majority of the states became states. Now, and then you had your admission process from 1791 to 1959. Now, the ratification and the admission process says, here's what you got to do to be re-admitted. So they had to start all over again from where the fuck ever else. They had to start all over again to become an actual state. They had to make sure that they had 3 branches of government and a constitution and a militia. each state before they could even try to admit themselves to be a state. They had before they in the ratification process and the admission process, they had to make sure that they had three branches of government, which is the executive branch, the legislative branch, the legislative, and the judicial branch. So you had to have a court, you had to have a lawmaking branch, which is the legislator, and you had to have an executive branch, which is a governor and states agencies. That's the executive branch. And you had to have local police and a local and a militia, which is the National Guards today, as we call it. You had to make sure you had all that intact. So the common law court was the local state courts in your specific state. And your constitution of your state had to not be in conflict with the U.S. Constitution and D.C. So the common law court is the court that was established in 1790, the judicial system in each individual state. That's what you had. That's where you had to go. That's what it was. So, that being said, you had to go to their biased local state courts, which is always in conflict with the Constitution. It's just that our people never challenged it. Well, then again, they don't know how, or we just didn't have representation for a fact. So now I want to go back to that document. And I want Ali Boumar, if he wants to come on up here. Now, so that's where I'm finding where the common law court is of record in any one of the states wherein he shall have resided for the term of 1 year at least, and making proof to the satisfaction of such court. So you had to go to court and prove that you lived there to become a citizen, that you lived there for a year in that state, that he is a person of good character and taking the oath or affirmation prescribed by law to support the Constitution of the United States. Now, here's the interesting part. And I'm going to stop the share screen. Do you know that our ancestors never did such? We never went to the court to take an oath of affirmation. Why is that? This is where shit stops right here. How come the Negroes never went to the court of common law to take an affirmation? That's my question. How come? But yet they're still citizens. That's why I asked who wrote it, who drafted that. That's the question I have. Not one of our ancestors, when my and that's in each state, when my ancestors, now we're talking my 5th generation grandmother, when they was forced out of South Carolina off their land and they came to Connecticut, they didn't go to the local court to do an affirmation in Connecticut. And they ain't doing it in South Carolina either. Because remember, they left. And they didn't leave South Carolina until 1928. Oh no, 1929. Because the first time they ever appeared on a census in Connecticut is 1930. 30. And my grandmother wasn't even born. So, that's my question on that whole document. I'm not even going any further than that. That's what I want to know. I want to know, why didn't we go to the common law court and take an oath of affirmation? Why didn't we? Obviously, we weren't aliens. We weren't aliens. They told you who the aliens were. So I'm going to put the link in the chat, and perhaps somebody might have another understanding of that. But when did we didn't, how come we didn't have to do that? How come? Even when we went to vote, we didn't have to take no oath. Those are the two questions I have. Who crossed out? Hell no, ain't no aliens getting no goddamn land over here. Who crossed that out? And how come we didn't have to take an oath of affirmation? Could somebody answer that question? The link is in the chat. And then it goes into and taking the oath or affirmation prescribed by law to support the Constitution of the United States, which oath or affirmation such court shall administer. And the clerk of such court shall record such application and the proceeding thereon. And thereupon such person shall be considered as a citizen of the United States. Now, we didn't do none of that shit. And the children of such person as a citizen. Wait a minute. And the children of such person to naturalize dwelling within the United States being under the age of 21 years at the time of such naturalization shall also be considered as citizens. But wait a minute, there's some brown ink. No, I don't even know what that says. Let me try to make it bigger. Shall be also be considered as natural born citizens of the United States. Okay. Being under the age of 21 years at the time of such naturalization shall also be considered as natural born citizens of the United States. Now, this is a sloppy copy because that wasn't typed in, it was written in. And the children of citizens of the United States that may be born beyond sea, or out of the limits of the United States shall be considered as natural born citizens, provided that the right of citizenship shall not descend to persons whose fathers have never been resident in the United States. Provided that the right of citizenship shall not descend to persons whose fathers have never been resident in the United States. What does that mean, y'all? What does that mean? Provided that the right of citizenship shall not descend, cannot descend to people whose fathers have never been resident in the United States. Yo, every fucking body that came over here, fathers, is not descendants from the United States. What the hell? Seriously. So everybody that's over here, this from what I'm reading from this last paragraph, provided that the right of citizenship cannot descend to people whose fathers have never been resident in the United States. So wait a minute now. Hold up now. Is this Naturalization Act void? Is it void? If so, when was it voided? Because what this is saying, if your daddy ain't never been here or been no resident, your ass ain't supposed to be here being no citizen. You an illegal alien. So everybody that came over here and getting sworn in, so there must have been an update because motherfuckers is coming over here getting sworn in. I got questions, Alabama. You need to come and help me, bruh. Yep. You rang, Queen Mother. I rang, Alabama. I'm seeing this shit for what it is. Provided also that no person heretofore prescribed by any state shall be admitted a citizen as aforesaid, except by an act of legislator of the state in which such person was prescribed. That any aliens other than an alien. Wow, look at this. Few white regarding da 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 da. I ain't even gonna try to read it. Maybe, yeah, that's just a repeat of what's on top. So, I mean, where's the update? Is there an update to such? Because it's saying, oh, you're welcome, Leah. Salute everybody, Juan and Brown. So, I mean, is it saying that, I mean, from what that's saying, is there an update? Is there, let me get Ali Boomer, y'all. Hold on a second. I need to get Ali Bamu. This is the time when we need Ali Bamu. So hold on. Let me try to call Ali Bamu. Hang on, y'all. Give me a minute. Listen to some music while I call Ali Bamu. Because this shit need to be straightened out. Give me a minute. I got to call him on the phone, y'all.
Time's been moving slowly, so we already in too deep. Can't get no sleep on each other, heavy teasing all day, and when the sun sets, you asking me to come through, kick it with you. Night turn to morning dew, then you feel it rushing in, lose control. You don't wanna go slow, for sure. We both
Hello.
already know your place is my
Hello.
place. No, my place is your
This
place.
is
Let's
Sister Betty.
face it. Baby, you know how to
Oh God, I don't know what's wrong with your phone.
play.
But I'm reading the 1790 Act and I have some questions. And I was wondering if you would step to the panel.
No one knows my places like you.
Yeah, I'm on now live. I just read it and I got some serious questions.
Places like I
Just hit the link in the chat. I don't know what that noise is in the background on your phone, but I put the link in the chat.
baby, don't stop. Got the key to the lock. We
I put the link in the chat, so
make you
he's gonna join me.
get to know mine on the
Just got off the phone with him.
can meet at yours next time.
So here's the link, Alabama. Cause this is crazy.
You don't wanna go slow, for sure.
Here's the link, Alabama, if you're out there. I don't know what that noise was in the background with your phone, but that's crazy. And I want to know the Naturalization Act, from what I recall, was updated. But was that I'm not sure that it was passed by Congress, if I recall, back in Obama days. If it's an executive order. Yeah, I can't remember. So I gotta ask Ali Bamu that, because I can't remember if it was an executive order when it was updated or if it was passed by Congress. Let me just look and see if I can find the most current Naturalization Act. It looks like it was still exists. The Naturalization Act of 1795 repealed and superseded the 1790 Act. The 1795 Act extended the residence requirement to 5 years and required that a prospective applicant give notice of 3 years of application. But my thing is, how of 1795? Let's see. It seems to have gotten repealed so many damn times. Let's see. Oh, hey.
Good afternoon, Chief Morning Thunder.
Hello. So first,
How are you today?
I'm good. How about you?
Juggling some things. I'm not sure how long I can be. What's going on?
Okay, so I'm looking at the Naturalization Act of 1790, and it seems like we had a couple of it had it appealed and superseded by the 1795 Act. But was that by executive order or was it passed by Congress?
To be very honest with you, I don't have the details on that before me. But here's the thing to me. No matter what act there is that exists, if it's never repealed by the process of the government, it stands. When the Supreme Court makes its ruling, that's what stare decisis is, meaning
Right.
it's the things that stand of the day until there is something like you see what's happened with Roe v. Wade, right?
Right.
Stare decisis existed more than 40 years.
Correct.
Then the Supreme Court made a determination in the exact opposite way on the same position under law. We've seen the exact same thing happen with Dred Scott, with Plessy versus Ferguson, when they returned to the issue with Brown v. Board of Education, right?
Mm.
So in those, both of those rulings, essentially starting with Dred Scott, actually said an opinion by a Supreme Court justice, the quote unquote black man, and that was one of the few times it actually was codified by an opinion from the bench. Not to say that black actually is in law, because we already know what that means in Black's Law Dictionary. But you see how things can become a part of the zeitgeist and the nomenclature if it elevates to the Supreme Court, right?
Right.
So you got a judge sitting on a bench saying, in their opinion, the black man, quote unquote, has no rights that the white man is bound to respect. Now, Dred Scott was 1857.
Correct.
Plessy versus Ferguson gave us what as their ruling for the mulatto that was on a train car in Louisiana.
Mm.
Now, Dred Scott was trying to argue his status as a free person,
Correct.
going cross border states, Missouri, ironically, Missouri Indian Territory.
Mm-hmm.
Plessy versus Ferguson was where they brought up separate but equal.
Equal. Correct.
Right. But these are opinions, aren't they?
Correct.
They become codified into law. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
But I still don't know. And this is what was, you saw the Chief Alligator conversation?
No, I didn't get a chance to see all of it.
Okay, this is the only point that's pertinent to me from what was attempted in his appearance with Sa Neter. Show me where Negro, colored, black, forget African American, just those three designations are in acts of Congress or in the actual law as Indian is.
Correct.
And that's when he pulled out the Civil Rights Act. Not only the one, the one in 1866 is called the Indian Civil Rights Act, though people don't report it that way.
Correct.
In 1968, a week after the assassination of Martin Luther King, that particular Civil Rights Act is what Alligator was using, showing defined rights, quote unquote, described in the law as Indian rights. You see what I'm saying, Chief Morning Thunder?
Yeah.
So where is their laws been enacted by Congress that either overrides or rescinds? And I'm saying this to answer your question about the Naturalization Act. So what I'm saying is, no matter what comes after it, those are modifications to it, just like the amendment process are modifications to the Constitution. But it doesn't overturn the original content in the original act or the Constitution itself. You see what I'm saying?
Correct.
So I'm still concerned when our conversations we first had on this, I'm still concerned on what is this common law court structure.
Okay, so only thing I know of as being the common law court, because it did mention in each individual state. Now, one of the approvals to be admitted as a state when they did it all over again, the ratification and the admission, before you could be admitted back into the union, you had to have had established the three branches of government, your local police, and your militia, which is like today the National Guards and shit. So
now, are you talking about the alleged Confederate states that were found to be in rebellion?
No.
Or are you talking about the
No.
original colonial process to get ratified as the original 13 states?
That part, like the they had to redo with the colonies, with the colonial states, it consisted of a ratification process because all of the land that the colonials were on were not theirs. The rest of the land outside of their little 10 acres in each state was Indian land. So, in order to make the colonial states an actual state, they had to ratify it again, meaning all the Indians on the rest of the land had to cede their lands into the corporation. And that's
Whoa, whoa,
that. Yeah,
hold on,
exactly.
hold on. Wait a minute. Hold. I'm hearing what you're saying, but I want clarity while I'm hearing. Okay, could you pull that timeline up that you have in your archive about the states, the original 13, and
The
their dates of
original.
ratification? Because when we were talking about this at that time originally, I was saying we needed that comparison. Though I know 1790 by then, all of the 13 colonies that were considered should have become ratified states by then. But remember, the first requirement was residency in what was considered a state. So your state citizenship was required first before you applied for United States citizenship status. You see what I'm saying?
Wait, say that again. Say that again. Run it by me one more time.
When we first talked about the Naturalization Act of 1790,
Uh-huh.
inside the document, it required 2 years residence and proof of whatever it is they define as good character, and to prove oneself not to be an alien enemy, right? Well, let's just say those are the three basic requirements.
Right.
So you must be a resident of a state for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You must prove yourself not an alien enemy, which still don't understand what that is, or how is one proving to be either not an alien enemy or have good character when you got a gang of thieves. But that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying those are three particular requirements. Can we agree on that?
Absolutely.
Then an application is applied to at a common law court on the state level, because remember, 1789, the Judiciary Act was barely created, the so-called 13 district courts. And I don't even know if they were in operation a year later in 1790. Do you see what I'm saying? The Judiciary Act creates the federal judiciary a year prior in 1789. So where are the courts? You feel what I'm getting at?
Yes, I think I do.
So circling back to what you said about what was considered a colony or a state as it's being ratified, I kind of agree with you, whether we call it 10 square acres or 10 square miles, like what Washington District of Columbia has become.
Right.
If it's 10 square miles as a template, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
each of the 13 colonies only had 10 square mile area
Mm-hmm.
where the colonial settlers were squatting.
Correct.
So I'm hearing you say for the rest of the land that became what was written on a map as a state border, that other land and territory got ratified in some fashion? Is that what you're saying? Or
Yes.
is there still some question out on that? Because to
Yeah.
be, and I could be wrong, to me, arguably, the jury is still, pun intended, by the way, the jury is still out until we find this common law court system. You feel me?
Facts.
Because anything that's been dealt with under administrative jurisdiction, which is the corporate criminal enterprise, which then got remodified in 1871. So I don't want to go far down the rabbit hole. Let me just stay back on the point that you raised. So you're thinking there was some 1795 modification to the 1790 Naturalization Act.
That's what they're saying. I'm not saying it. I was reading it, but I was looking for the new ratification, and then there was more after that, all the way up to 2022 being the last most current one.
Exactly, because these are alterations they are making. But okay, so not to cause confusion, Queen Mother, anything that's being done by them is under maritime administrative law. Okay?
Oh,
Because they are still operating here under colonial imperialism and invasion, which meant they traveled over the sea, right?
mm-hmm.
And most, if not all of them, because we keep this from being confused, we've got at least 5 different entities. We got Spain, Portugal, France, and Dutch, besides English. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But the English criminals we're dealing with are subjects of the crown.
Correct.
Meaning the monarchy, King George III, that we understand at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And they supposedly rose up in rebellion to the monarch overseas.
Correct.
Okay, so then are the other four categories that I mentioned, Spain, Portugal, France, and Dutch, do they not have a similar subject status for their criminals that are over here operating on our Aboriginal homeland? And are they not operating under a similar subject to a monarchy status? And there's a reason why I'm pointing this out, because all five of these colonial powers are operating under monarchy directed by the Pope under what agenda? Dum diversus, doctrine of discovery, the age of exploration.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you discover someone else's shit? Is that not the definition of theft?
That is a prime
So
example.
I go in your house and I discover your couch and I decide to leave with it. I'm not stealing it. I found it.
Correct. Well,
is that what we're saying?
Not to their benefit, but I'm saying I'm agreeing with what you're saying.
So do you understand what I mean by conceptually? Then your laws are based on that fraud. I don't want to lose you here.
No,
you get the point.
I actually agree. But what I find interesting is what I can't understand is, was this act by Congress or was
well, see, that's where Chief Alligator, I'm 100% in his corner on this sentiment. We need the congressional acts that were taken. You see, now his focus for the conversation with Sarnetta was whether or not the Civil War was ever declared. And no one has yet to provide the declaration of war from the Congress between the northern states and the southern states. Well, people don't seem to understand.
They just went at it.
Well, but remember, both of these people are members of the same House and Senate. Correct. On a federal level. Jefferson Davis was elected to represent South Carolina, then went and named himself president.
Fact.
There wasn't an election in South Carolina. I mean, if I missed something, if you come up with that in your research, you show me where they elected him president. Each one of then we would have what, 13 presidents?
Right.
Or was there an agreement to a union government, which is called the federalism? And there was one sole executive that is the president of the United States. So there is no way for there to be a president of the Confederate States of America. Right. You feel me? That's why Lincoln said these states are in rebellion, not at war.
Correct.
And he fought to protect the Union, not in slavery. See, these are the type of simple facts that we need to start talking about, especially when Pam Boo Boos keeps talking this slave narrative crap.
Correct.
We need to respond with intelligent responses like, first and foremost, slavery is not our issue, whether you want to embrace it, claim it or not.
Correct.
If we're going to say that the Aboriginal enslaved people, then let's start providing those facts and who those people were. But to then say the Aboriginal was an African mysteriously all of a sudden magically transported from Africa to America to work on some foreign soil that you don't know shit about no more than the slave masters that brought you here. How did either one of these people know how to operate on this land?
Facts.
I'm just asking a simple question. Maybe I'm not making sense. To me, this is logical stuff. Okay?
It's very logical, sir.
So when we're talking about anything that's discussing the United, and I know you know this, Queen Mother, why I say the United Snakes of America is because it is all operating under false pretenses. People have got it twisted from day one. They don't understand. Just like looking at any other kind of contract, and you deal with this every day because you have a legal background. When you're looking at a contract, the minimum is 2 parties required, right?
Correct.
Both parties agree to whatever the contract contents are.
You have to have an agreement.
And presumably a successful contract is to the benefit of both parties.
Correct.
Now, in the case of the United States Constitution, what would be beneficial to the Aboriginal people who already on their land to allow some foreign people on your land? That's like, isn't that like if you let a person in your home, that makes you a landlord and that makes them a tenant, right?
Correct.
What's the contract that you have typically in that situation?
You having
A lease agreement,
a lease agreement.
something of that nature. I'm just pointing it out for
Right.
people, especially the slow bus individuals. Okay.
Okay.
So you're the Aboriginal landlord of the land. That's what Aboriginal title means. Not a coincidence. Okay. So you are allowing people at your determination of whether or not they can coexist and operate on your land.
I'm trying to find the agreement to that, sir.
The United States Constitution, the organic one in 1787, based on the Articles of Confederation, based on the governmental structure of the Iroquois Confederacy between 1776 and the end of hostilities prior to 1787. I'm just trying to do a quick, bullet point thing on what would be considered a timeline. You feel me? So
Yes.
somebody's in your house.
Uh-huh.
You've allowed them in from invitation because you are a good person of good moral character.
Okay.
But the beef is not in your house. They're beefing with a Crip or a Blood off the next block, a la King George.
Okay.
But they fighting in your house. You feel what I'm saying, Prima?
Yeah.
So when they said the redcoats, the British are coming, remember that Paul Revere shit that we were
Right.
talking
The
all these kind
British
of
are
fables with?
coming. The redcoats
Okay,
are coming.
okay.
Yep.
So they're coming into your house with these other motherfuckers in your house, right?
Correct.
And they fighting in your house. What does that have to do with you?
Nothing. I mean, it's disrespectful to our land, but
why is it we can't seem to come to this simple understanding, Bethy?
Alibamu, because everybody's reading comprehension is not at the same level.
Damn the reading comprehension. Did I not make a simple enough example of what I'm saying to you?
Yeah, it's simple to us, but
so it's your house, because you know how I feel about this, because I approach this every way. I'm in Big Mama's house.
Uh-huh.
I done brought Pookie and Ray Ray with me. They're not my blood. They're my distant cousins, let's say. Okay. And I'm saying this for this Moorish thing they keep putting on us. And the Moors claiming they set up government here. And the Moors claiming they had 7 presidents before George Washington. You've heard variations of all these fables. But that's still setting up in whose house?
Our house.
How in the hell are you laying claim to something in somebody else's shit? This is what's always a problem for me, Queen Mother. I'm not talking about nobody else. I'm not trying to tell nobody else to think what I'm thinking. I'm raising the points of the thought that I have. Okay? I'm still waiting for this to make sense.
It's not going to make sense, Ali Buma. It's straight up gangster takeover of land.
Yeah, we going to get back to that. All right. So now we got African Moors, Negropeans coming to your house under your good graces, whether you want to believe in the Plymouth Rock or whatever other, these, fantastical tales we've been told about refugees running from, what is it? Religious persecution.
Right.
And what is the first thing they do to these are guests. That makes us hosts, right? And you know where I'm going with the host word again, because who else feeds off a host? Parasites? So these guests into your house are now religiously persecuting you to make you a what?
Citizen,
a Christian? No. A Christian.
A Jesus lover.
A Christian.
A Christian, correct. Convert or die.
And I'm supposed to accept that because that shit was done to you that ran you off from Portugal, Spain, England, throughout Europe, North African continent, West African coast. I don't care what it is. Follow where I'm going with this, Queen Mother. All these stories and fables and tales are being brought to us for what reason? To convince us of what? I'm still trying to figure out what is it that we have in this? What attaches us to any of this?
Nothing.
And all of this has been transported from someplace else. I don't give a damn where that else is. It's from someplace else, brought by somebody else to you to do what with, Queen Mother? Now, I don't know. You seem to be a peacemaker to me by character and person. But are you supposed to be making peace for other motherfuckers? Shit.
No, we have nothing to do with that.
How many
It was
centuries has that
imposed
now
on us.
gone on? How many centuries has that gone on?
Like
Now, if we're just
continues.
saying the clock starts with dumb diverses, that's 1452. That's 571 years. When is enough enough?
The time is now. It's not.
Now,
It's
please explain
beyond
to
the
me
time.
why Pope Francis is moonwalking back off this active crime scene.
Well, he's moonwalking because everybody's indoctrinated to believe something that wasn't supposed to be imposed on us, but we took it, and he's moonwalking now because ain't shit you can do unless you demand the justice. So he's
So
gonna move. He know he know he's trying to clean himself from it.
they call it absolution in Catholicism. So he's trying to absolve
So of
himself
course he's gonna
of what he
he's
would
gonna
say. Well, I
moonwalk.
wasn't here. I'm not Pope Nicholas V.
Correct.
Okay, that would be the same as Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. saying, I didn't implement any of the Trump executive orders,
So are
but I'm
you
not going to rescind them, nor renounce them, or overturn them. Now, do you see what I'm circling back
well?
to
Okay,
the
first of all,
original document, 1790 Naturalization Act.
I thought he
You see what I'm
denounced
saying?
it. I thought he denounced it.
No, he picked and chose. You know what they say, like cherry picking.
Okay, but
He picked and chose certain executive orders.
but isn't a denouncement in a denouncement?
Now, if we're talking about the Pope again, we're circling back to the Pope. He renounced the doctrine of discovery. Now, this actually it's used interchangeably. Dumb diversus is one thing. Doctrine of discovery got, just like you said about the 1795 ratification, codification, whatever that act was. This was after dumb diversus was done by Pope Nicholas V in 1452. That set out a philosophy. Let's put it this way. They said it was a philosophy. Okay. The actual agenda, operational procedures I'm bestowing on Isabella Ferdinand, Charles V, whatever, whomever, Charlemagne. You see what I'm saying? Because all these people, when they become monarchs, they are authorized by the Pope. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
And when each one of them are authorized, he's now giving them marching orders to go across the planet and say, this is your turf, this is your territory. You see what I'm getting at? Because they laid out the planet on a map, drew a demarcation line, and to the left was Spain. And that's the reason why Brazil is the only one of those Central and South American countries that speak Portuguese.
Mm-hmm.
That was the demarcation line. So from there over through Africa and major portions of Eurasia, the subcontinent, that's India, that was given to the Portuguese. So all the stuff that's over here is mostly Spanish. And you'll notice that from Northern California and the West Territory,
Right.
all the way down to the tip of Chile. They all speak Spanish.
Correct.
Brazil speaks Portuguese.
Correct.
You feel me?
I do.
So when any of these things were done, they were done under the so-called authority, which I'm using air quotes, and direction of the papal bulls, or this case, it became a generic policy referred to as the doctrine of discovery. So anytime that monarchs sent out explorers, doesn't matter which ones you're talking about,
Right.
whether it's Dutch, German, French, English, Spanish, or Portuguese, when they released the Kraken, okay,
yep,
the Moors claim they were the navigators directing these mofos to our doorstep. That is what they say, isn't it?
That's what they say.
Okay, so how culpable and responsible is it that they are for bringing them here, and then in the same breath claiming you discovering something when you know some people are already here?
Correct.
So you're saying you discover something to cover up your criminal activity.
Correct.
Then you say the people don't believe in the God concept you believe in. That makes them a pagan, savage, barbarian that needs to be civilized. They use the phrase the white man's burden.
Mm-hmm.
And you either become a Christian, become civilized by us, or you die and I steal your shit. Either way, if you don't die, I steal your shit.
Correct.
Is something I missed here?
Yes.
I'm listening.
There is. Well, if he denounced it, and you said he renounced, it's saying denounced. So if he denounced,
okay. Now see
so
the difference between those two words.
I know the difference.
Here's the interesting thing. No, I'm pointing this out for the audience. We can denounce and meaning speak against something. Okay, anybody can do that. Every individual can have an opinion for or against whatever it is that we're talking about. That's what denouncing something is. Renouncing is whether you actually have power and execute it to overturn what's been done that is fraudulent or criminal. Now, until I see him do that, now there are some reports claiming renouncing. Okay. But even at that, his whole denouncement is under this way of professing it wasn't me. It was Pope Nicholas V 571 years ago. You follow what I'm saying?
But if it was in the public media, then it's his word. And he does.
And are you still saying his word is law?
Are you saying, okay, that's the tricky part.
Are we saying his word is law?
No, that's the tricky part because we have to.
No. Here's how I'm gonna answer that though, Queen Mother. That's why I keep bringing you. But here, or follow me on this.
Okay.
And this is why we have to be accurate, because we're the victim.
1 second so I could just go turn the burner down on Big Willie's
Sure.
chicken. Okay, give me a minute.
While you're doing that, I'm going to say why Ruth Bader Ginsburg said what she said.
Oh my
on
goodness!
On the 2015, in the 2015 ruling, I don't have the court case before me, but you can Google it when you can. They had a majority opinion. Sometimes it's not always required. In some cases, they select a particular justice of the 9 to write what they call is the major opinion. And if there's any dissenting votes, usually the individuals that voted against it, sometimes they'll let one justice who voted against it speak. And in very rare occasions, all the justices that voted against the opinion want their position on the record for any particular future litigation and efforts to either overturn it or to come at it from a different legal point, because there's sometimes fine legal points that are brought out by these issues. In the case of whatever this particular court case was, it was something along the lines of deeds, titles, land patents, whatever that particular lawsuit was. In the ruling in 2015, Ruth Bader Ginsburg used the doctrine of discovery as stare decisis. And that's what this crap I said again about what is considered as legal precedent, they let stand until something of great importance or crime and a violation has been revealed to be an error. And that's what's crucial about the denouncement of the Pope, because people are using this philosophy, papal bull, or actual legal jurisprudence to say we can legally steal shit. And once it's been stolen, it's kind of like another legal phrase that they like using. Possession is 9/10 of the law. But which law are we talking about? When we're talking about administrative maritime law, that's what you use phrases like legalese and the issue of whether something is legal or illegal, as opposed to something being lawful and unlawful. When we're talking about the Constitution, which is supposed to be the ultimate supreme law of this land that operates under this federal government, the issue then becomes, is it constitutional, which determines whether it's lawful or unlawful. Then there is the next level of common law, which some people refer to as nature or God's law, and I'm not talking about the Mosaic codes or the Ten Commandments, things that are referred to as ecclesiastical or biblical, quote unquote, legal precedents. Common law is supposed to be the law of existence based on nature. Now, whether you want to think that's Mama Earth, or you want to think that's because we're in harmony with the cosmos and the universe, everybody to each his own has their own opinion. But the ruling that's still standing today from 2015 is we stole the shit. We have the law on our side to hold the shit. And the first position that we got it under was the doctrine of discovery. Now, I don't know how that's going to be attacked in a legal fashion until we do what UNDRIP and ADRIP has said has always been our right and is our birthright through being the actual inheritors of Aboriginal existence, not just here in North, Central, and South America, but wherever Aboriginals exist all over the planet. Now, of course, they refer to it as indigenous peoples. It's somewhat synonymous, but the fact remains, as they were stealing from us and they defined us and they labeled us as Americans, in the definition of American is Aboriginal copper colored people. They also admitted that they attached themselves to the definition of American. To me, that is a complicit admission of guilt to identity theft. Now, I may have rambled a bit there, Queen Mother. I don't know how much clarity I provided, but that Ruth Bader Ginsburg position representing the majority opinion in 2015, well, we probably need to bring that up at some point. And I'm sure with whatever legal efforts that you're making, you may end up referencing that as a supporting position that needs to be checked.
Okay.
Because any claims that we're going to make to our land being returned to us, it's going to fall under that jurisdiction, similar how they did with Roe versus Wade. You feel what I'm saying?
Correct. Okay, so here's the falseness in that. If she used the doctrine of discovery, which she did, that means she made the Pope's statement the supreme law of the land, correct? If that's what she went by, and she used it to make a ruling.
Did in their ruling, and again, I guess we'd have to actually print it out and see not just what hurt, because remember, a lot of times when these type of majority opinions happen, sometimes they'll let it stand on its own. Many times the Chief Justice makes a particular opinion to clarify what the judgment was, or they pick, like this case with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, they pick a particular judge to write the majority opinion. But again, remember, it's still an opinion. Okay. That's the irony of it. It's the opinion of a judge interpreting the law. But the point is, the law being based on the doctrine of discovery. You see what I'm saying? That's what they're using to stand on, to supposedly rule against someone who said, well, let's just use the example of eminent domain. How frequently an eminent domain is being used against a person or a citizen or a subject against their will? And why does the government have the authority to take your land and supposedly pay you fair market value? Okay. Where does that authority come from? I'm saying to you, this is the kind of argument they use. The doctrine of discovery is the basis of such authority for government behavior.
I
you see what I'm saying?
Let me ask you this question, because now I'm going to have to go look the case up. Do you know, before I look up the case, do you know if the other 8 justices dissented or if they affirmed?
No, that's what I'm saying. So when you have a case like that, you look up that particular case and see what the judgment was. It's 7-2, 8-1, or 9-0. If there are any dissenters, typically the dissenting judge, no matter what the number is, if it's more than one, they may agree the same way that the majority does to let one dissenting judge write the opinion. But when it's a few, like 1 or 2, normally each judge writes their own opinion why they're in disagreement with the majority's position.
I get it.
So, yeah. But see, in those dissents, a lot of time. Here's some interesting stuff. This is like with Thurgood Marshall. Okay, remember in the ruling for Plessy, there was only one dissenting judge.
Correct.
But Thurgood Marshall studied that dissent to argue Brown v. Board of Education in 1954.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm getting at? Mm-hmm. So a lot of times you can bring out the positions of the justices on the Supreme Court because it's considered just as much as in law as the majority opinion, because there's still opinions. But their opinion is about this particular point of the law that's been raised by that lawsuit. And so when I'm saying, for example,
opinions are just dicta. It's not law. An opinion is just
that's
an
true.
opinion. It's
that's
dicta.
true.
It's dicta.
But it's being used to reinforce whatever the law that's being attacked by a particular lawsuit. That's why it works its way up to the top in the Supreme Court.
Okay,
but once it's been ruled, because look at what's going on right now with abortion. It became rule the law of the land for over 40 years. Now in the 50th year, it's been overturned.
Okay, I get that. But I don't want to. You throw me off when you're jumping to other cases. This particular cases with the Queen of Evil, Ginsburg. Okay,
well, not only the Queen of Evil, the Queen of England as well. Since both of them are dead now, we're talking about land issues, right?
I want to go and look up the actual case and see the dissenting parties. If they all affirmed and in agreement with her, if they all affirmed Ali Baba,
if it was a 9-0 opinion,
if they all affirmed her decision, if
it was a unanimous decision for that particular case,
if it was unanimous, right, then they use the Pope's rhetoric or decree.
Well, see, that's why I would say
law of the land, and if that's the case, then they're going to have to use this Pope's denouncement of it.
Denouncement. Okay. Well, here, all right. I'm not disagreeing with what you're proposing, but here's what I'm going to say, and this is why I think it's both false. Not what you're saying is false. What's false is the ruling from the Supreme Court. What's false is the actual using of the document itself. It is not a treaty. The doctrine of discovery is not a treaty. You feel where I'm going? You know where I'm going with bringing up anything that's talking about treaty.
Correct.
Because only treaties are the actual ultimate law of the land. Because treaty takes on international significance. You see? So, I mean, we can operate and do whatever it is we do within our individual nations and countries, be it that as it may, fine and well. But when there's an international judgment of something, you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's why treaties hold the significant difference that they do. And if they're making this specious argument, because belief is a terrible thing, Queen Mother, but that's what gets codified into law. This belief is based in white supremacy. Mm. They are also stating they are taking a religious position and a religious representative, because the Pope is both. The Pope is a representative in sort of a government position, you know what I mean, so to speak, and then expresses a philosophical belief, which is why their religion and his theological positions are somewhat problematic. In a country that might call itself Christian professing, but we're supposed to not have any state-sanctioned, authorized religion, correct? Correct. That's part of the separation of powers and the checks and balances. Mm-hmm. You see? So we've allowed people, and her being a Jew is very ironic, because I think that's the reason why they let her they chose her to make the opinion about the particular case, so that they wouldn't be able to be charged the way I'm talking like right now. Because much of what's been implemented here is a Christian ethic that would make this society a borderline theocracy. You feel me? Mm-hmm. Because everything that's supposed to be determined by this particular government is supposed to be neutral. It's not supposed to elevate one religion over another, or a political party over another. You see what I'm getting at? Mm-hmm. Or a particular racial category. And we already know that's not true, because we know that white supremacy, once they created the status of white, they elevated it above all else, but specific to making sure a particular people were considered black.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the whole point about Dred Scott, Plessy versus Ferguson, Brown v. Board of Education.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those cases made it to the Supreme Court and arbiter, and they were gotten wrong at least 2 out of 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And the separate but equal was supposed to have been implemented with all deliberate speed. That's 1954. Are we still segregated in 2023? Do we still have unequal treatment and policies
Yes.
and funding for so-called black citizens and black children as far as education is concerned?
But
and I know that's partly probably with the
but
position.
are we the people that we were before? Is the question.
Mm.
You keep saying we.
Okay.
Weren't black.
Interesting question.
We weren't.
I think I understand what you mean by it. We were never black. That's see. Okay.
That's why I'm just asking.
You know, even if you go look into the doctrine of discovery, you don't see the word white or black used. We also know there is no white or black designation in the Constitution. We also know there's no reference to African, European, Asian, nothing.
Black,
only Indian, not taxed.
That's it.
And so each and every time we have these type of discussions, this is the only thing that's frustrating to me, Chief Morning Thunder. There is nothing else to stand on but that.
That's it. That's all we have to stand on. And the thing about it, what's the guy's name? Ali Bamu. You just mentioned his name. He went in the different states. The black guy too. Oh God. You just
now which Dred Scott or Plessy versus Ferguson?
No, Dred Scott. When he went,
he traveled from one territory, from a slave state to a free state, and back to a slave state.
Now, when he was traveling, he was traveling as a black guy.
I'm not sure in 1857 whether he was designated black, but I would be almost exactly accurate to say that he was referred to as a Negro or colored.
Okay.
Now, in his case, I think he would have been an actual Negro, not a mulatto or whatever.
Correct. So he was traveling as a Negro. So nothing applied. That's why he kept losing. Now, had he said he was Indian, he'd been dead before he even got to the court. They'd have killed him.
Well, all right, so I get okay. I'm feeling you on that. I had a feeling that's what you were implying. Not that he would have been legally dead or there wouldn't have been a court case brought up. But anyway,
literally dead, hanging in the tree. Oh, you gonna say you an Indian? Going to court? They'd have killed him.
I got you.
So he was gonna lose anyway.
So okay, let's stick on that point for a moment because it's interesting that you said that. The Indian Civil Rights Act.
Put the rice on. Oh my God! Because I'm cooking Willie's food. But just hold the audience. I'm listening. Just hold the audience for me.
Big Willie, she coming. She coming, Big Willie.
No, he ain't home yet. If I don't have that food, that man gonna be mad. Let me just throw the rice in the pan. I think the water's boiling. Give me a minute.
Now,
Go ahead.
As far as the Indian Civil Rights Act of 1866. The predicament in many cases for us is to understand, and this is why I'm very excited about the approach that Chief Alligator and his particular group, whether they call themselves Aboriginals or American Indians, is that there must be a firm position on verifying whether or not Negro, colored, and black has ever been codified in federal law, not black codes, not the Negro Act of 1740 that's on the state level with the legislature in South Carolina. In any of this timeline from 1787 and the organic original United States Constitution that very clearly has embedded in it excluding Indians not taxed. The only other thing that I could think of just in passing, because I don't have the archives of litigiousness or any type of legal rulings, acts, laws implemented from the U.S. House of Representatives. This is key. It's very important. It's not that it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Everything that's done on a state level is individual to those states. When it gets elevated to the Congress, it is nationwide by law. So the Indian Removal Act of 1830 until the Indian Civil Rights Act of 1866 is 36 years. And whichever time you see anything else done other than Indian, and the reason for the reference of Negro is because of the Spanish influence prior to British colonial invasion. So, as best as I could say, and I'm not a legal scholar, maybe some other people, and I'm sure you'll be doing that too, Queen Mother. When you start pulling up any of your searches and research, you need to pull up Indian in law, not Black's Law Dictionary. Even if you go back to the fourth edition or however many earlier editions that you would be able to get your hands on, because it's very hard to get a fourth edition and older. If you're sitting on the first edition, you're probably sitting on a very expensive piece of legal literature. But the best that I can say is, as a fact, Indian Removal Act 1830, Cherokee versus the state of Georgia between 1831 1832. Those are specific laws and acts from the Congress, the United States House and Senate, and then adjudicated by the Supreme Court, and Chief Justice John Marshall specifically directed the president at that time, Andrew Jackson, that they had, and he himself had no authority to challenge the Cherokee Nation, which was a foreign sovereign government, and advocate in behalf of the former colony, the state of Georgia. Now, that's sometime around 1831 to 1832. Until the Indian Civil Rights Act of 1866, I don't know that there was much either law or litigation coming from the House or the Senate that passed both houses and was signed into law by the president, because ironically, which has been misrepresented and ill reported as far as American history is concerned, the Seminole Wars existed from about 1818 or thereabout, because that's when Andrew Jackson became the Indian killer general and got his bona fides, his resume, his reputation from those early Indian wars in the 18 teens up until what we're told is the Civil War of 1865. So the Seminole Wars or the Gullah Geechee Wars, or the more than, I think it could be anywhere from 5 to 6 dozen tribal wars, conflicts in and out with either what's going to be considered Union or Confederate armed troops and or militias, I would be very much speculating, Chief Morning Thunder. So I don't know if anyone maybe in the chat could pull up the time period between 1830, the Indian Removal Act, 1866, the Indian Civil Rights Act, and show me where there has been any other federal legislation passed by the House and the Senate and signed into law by whatever chief executive that was at that time. And remember, we're talking about between Andrew Jackson becoming president. I'm not quite sure. I think maybe Martin Van Buren was the president before Andrew Jackson, up until the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. So, you back with me, Chief Morning Thunder?
I am back just now. I put everything on. Now I can play.
I'm not sure of what you heard while you were juggling, but let me just recap it quickly this way.
Okay.
The timeline for me, very simply put, that we have as a fact is the Indian Removal Act, which was passed by Congress into law in 1830. Cherokee Nation versus former colony, now state of Georgia, was adjudicated up to the Supreme Court sometime between 1831 and 1832. Chief Justice John Marshall directed the current sitting president, Andrew Jackson, that they could hands off to the sovereign nation existing as Cherokee in what we refer to as southeast of the nation. The response from that absquatulating criminal, I'd love to see the Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice John Marshall, step down off that bench and enforce it. Then the following piece of legislation, which is what Chief Alligator was focused on, would be the 1866, and it is actually in law, Indian Civil Rights Act. You see what I'm saying, Chief
Uh-huh.
Morning Thunder?
Yep.
So anytime during that 36-year period, if you could find any other legislation that was passed by both houses of Congress and signed into law by whatever sitting president, that would be somewhat the answer to your question, I think.
Well, you're not going to find it.
I believe that's what Chief Alligator was stating.
Well, I mean, you mean after that?
I'm saying between 1830
Uh-huh.
and 1866, there are specific acts of Congress not only acknowledging, but reinforcing Indians not taxed in the Constitution of the United States government. You understand what I'm saying now?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the position that Chief Alligator was having, whether it was Lord Abba, Sa Netta, Reggie, Ankh, Jabari, I don't care. No one of those members of the House of Consciousness seemed to source up or shut up on that fact. Now, you can't provide anything factual to state where Negro, colored, or black has been equally codified in federal law. I'm not talking about the black codes or the black Christian codes of certain errant breakaway, soon to be breakaway Confederate states, or the Negro Act of 1740, which I'm sure you're familiar with, from South Carolina. That's a state legislature, right?
Correct.
Or what then became what in, colloquial phrase, Jim Crow, was based on these black codes. Now, but what are those black codes? Those are statutes, right?
Correct.
That's not even law.
Correct.
So show me where Negro, black, and colored is codified in federal law through the process that Chief Alligator was pointing out. And then underscoring no war was declared between the North and the Southern states. That's his point about the Civil War as defined did not exist and should not be taught in curriculum because it's not only a lie, it's inaccurate.
Correct.
Now, there were Southern states referred to as the Confederate States of America, but using that designation is a documented admission of sedition.
Correct.
You feel me?
Yes.
That's the definition of treason, right?
Correct.
So the first thing that South Carolina said was they were in secession. That's the word that's used. It's a legal term.
Mm-hmm.
To secede is to be in rebellion against the existing federal corporate entity, right?
Correct.
And all of these people were elected into the federal House or Senate. So while they were elected officials on the national level in the Union's government, they went and set up another operation calling themselves Confederate States. How is that not? By that simple act alone, you are guilty of sedition and treason. And then they have the gall to come up with this lost cause BS, Queen Mother. And the Daughters of the Confederacy set up this fraudulent narrative. Again, showing how these are thieves, murderers, liars, cheats, and outlaws. And you know what the clearest point of it is? No, you've heard this phrase with your legal expertise and background. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Now, do you see how they made their ruling under the doctrine of discovery, even to the tippy top of the Supreme Court of the United States?
Yeah, but the question still remains, Alabama. If I wonder, I'm going to go look that decision up because now it's mind-boggling for me because I want to know what the decision of the other 8 justices were. If they are affirmed with Ginsburg, then that means they made the Pope's orders the supreme law of the land. So if that's the case, if they made a Pope's orders the supreme law of the land,
and just for the sake of the people in the audience, that is what a papal bull is. A papal bull is no different than a executive order from the president of the United States.
Okay, but I'm saying again, if they all agreed with Ginsburg and made his decree, Pope V decree, supreme law of the land, then that means the Pope's word is the supreme law of the land. So if this Pope denounced it, that's the supreme law of the land. He denounced it.
I'm following your line of reasoning.
He said it publicly.
I got you on that.
And
But again,
that's
saying it publicly is no different than, like, say, we're talking about the 1400s and 1500s. Remember the town crier?
No, Nali Buma. If he said it publicly in the eyes of the people of the world, that's the media, that's primary source evidence because it happened.
I'm not disputing you on that. I'm not disputing on that.
I just
we're
want
talking
the world to know that
different things. No, but we're talking two different things. When we're talking jurisprudence, there's the adjudicating part of it that must be addressed. But I got you. I'm not disagreeing with you. You seem to be frozen, Queen Mother. Can you hear me? Mic check? Because you were frozen there.
Am I frozen now?
Not now. Okay. What were you saying?
If she made a decision and they all agreed with her decision, then they made the Pope's word the supreme law of the land. It's all I'm saying.
I got you on that. I mean, we're not a disagreement. I'm not in disagreement with the statement you're making. Just bear with what I'm saying. The court, once you bring that case up, and I know all you have to do is put in Ruth Bader Ginsburg 2015, and you'll bring up whatever her opinion that she wrote. Okay. But if the ruling was a unanimous decision,
say it again.
I'm going to look
it up. Ruth Ginsburg.
Yeah, just put Ruth Bader Ginsburg 2015, and then put in doctrine of discovery. Like those 3 adjoining keywords, and it should pop up with her opinion. Now, again, we're describing until we get the actual facts of the case. If it was a unanimous decision, the Chief Justice probably assigned Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And by the way, that's still John Roberts, because I know this is during Obama's administration. So the Chief Justice, John Roberts, instead of doing what typically happens, especially in a unanimous decision, the Chief Justice makes an opinion statement. You feel me? And then other justices can have, they call it consenting opinions. But even though they voted for it, they may want to make fine legal points, of their positions on why they voted for it. But in this case, if they only stood behind the choice of making Ruth Bader Ginsburg speak on this ruling, I would very much love to know if there were any dissenting judges
right now
on that case. But I don't remember the specific case, but I do know it was something along the lines of a mortgage or a land patent, or I don't know, title, deed, I don't know, something of that nature. But it made its way to the Supreme Court, and she made reference to the doctrine of discovery within her ruling opinion.
Okay, in an opinion authored by Justice.
And the only reason I brought up the examples
of the Supreme Court ruled that sovereign indigenous nations could not regain sovereignty over land once it had relinquished control over the land to parties subject to the jurisdiction of state governments. All right.
So that sounds like a variation of Cherokee versus Georgia from 1832. But go ahead with whatever you bring up.
I'm trying to look for the case. Oh, okay. Sherrill versus Oneida Nation. Let me go look up that case.
Now, the Oneida are on your doorstep around New York, Maine, Massachusetts. I think, the Oneida Nation.
Uh-huh.
And aren't they one of the first 5 or 6 nations of the Iroquois Confederacy? Oneida, Onondaga, Mohawk. I can't remember all of them, but.
Oh, wow. So here we go. Look, I got the short part of it. Oneida Nation. Okay. So here we go. All right, here's the facts of the case. In late 18th century Congress. In late 18th century, Congress set aside most of the tribal land of the Oneida Nation of New York as a reservation. The tribe later sold off much of the reservation. In the 1990s, members of the tribe began to buy back pieces of the land. The tribe said the reacquired land was part of a reservation and therefore exempt from state and municipal taxes. The city of Sherrill, which encompassed some of the tribe's property, argued the land was not tax exempt. The Oneida sued Sherrill in federal district court and alleged the land was recognized by the 1794 Treaty of Canandaigua as part of their historic reservation. The Oneidas also pointed to the 1790 Non-Intercourse Act that required federal consent for Indian land to lose its reservation status. Sherrill argued the land lost its reservation status after leaving the Oneidas' ownership originally. The district court and the Second Circuit Court of Appeals ruled for the Oneidas. Question: were land parcels once owned by the Oneida Nation sold in 1807 but repurchased in the 1990s by the nation's descendant tribe, part of an Indian reservation and thus exempt from local taxes? Now, in an 8-1 opinion delivered by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the court held that standards of federal Indian law and federal equity precluded the tribe from unilaterally reviving its ancient sovereignty over the land at issue. The court pointed up to the long-standing, distinctly non-Indian character of central New York and its inhabitants, and the fact that regulatory authority over the land had been exercised by state and local government for 200 years. By giving up the land in the early 19th century, the Oneidas had relinquished governmental reins and could not regain them through open market purchases for current title holders. So was this the decision? Because I'm not seeing where she used the document.
That's the decision in question, but I think you'd have to go further into her actual opinion. Now, who was the dissenter?
There was only one dissenter. I'm going to go and get the actual case.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, here it is. Down here. It was made in here it is right here at the bottom. I'm going to highlight it and paste it into the browser. Let's see if I can get it that way.
So, as I said earlier, because 8 of them voted they voted together to argue in behalf of the city government to tax them. See, this is kind of a convoluted thing, but we could walk through it separately. Then the one person who dissented would have their own separate opinions, what I was saying about earlier. Okay. And then there would be interesting notes to bring out and extract from the position that the justice took that voted against. But the other 7 still have the option of making their own opinions known, including the Chief Justice. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times they let a judge like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or they pick a justice to, in a sense, explain why they voted in behalf of that particular position. Now, the predicament that I'm hearing in just the contents and the facts of the case itself, it's like that phrase they used to use about Indian giver?
Uh-huh.
All right. But first and foremost, the word reservation throws red flags up in my head. Okay. Next is acknowledge tribal affiliation federal recognition. Second red flag. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Set aside and apportioning land determined by the colonizers, which sounds like who? $5 imposters and the Mongoloid hybrids. Then they're going to come back and say, we like to purchase back, which, by the way, it shouldn't sold and shouldn't have to buy either if it is actually their sovereign land. You see what I'm getting here? I don't want to put out too many bullet points, but you see the points that are of concern to me, just listening to the facts of the case.
Mm-hmm.
And what sovereign land can ever be sold to foreigners? And the mere fact that it wasn't brought up Indian not taxed should have been the first position of arguing against any government, municipal, county, state, local, or federal. You see what I'm saying? Which leads me to believe that these are probably Native Americans involved. And certainly not able to declare themselves the original American. You know why I say American, Chief? Because there can be only one. And until we get our sense about ourselves, some of us taking our head out our behind, and understand the significance of declaring oneself an American, whether you call yourself Indian, whether you understand you're Aboriginal, inside the definition of American is Aboriginal, right? Mm-hmm. The only way of interacting with this federal government and therefore all of its constituent governments, which are the state, colonies, counties, municipalities, regional quasi-governmental agencies, is standing on Indians are not to be taxed. Now, isn't that interesting that it wasn't even spoken on as far as the facts of the case? Because the Supreme Court's jurisdiction is first and foremost reaffirming what is constitutional. You see what I'm saying? Now, why it was picky, because remember, the Supreme Court only chooses to let cases come before them. So the question is, why did they choose to hear this case from the Oneida versus the city of Sherrill, or Sherrill, however it's pronounced?
Okay, so here's what
that's just my opinion. You know, that's just my perspective off of listening.
I still think this is from the Second Circuit, from the Court of Appeals. I'm looking for
before it got to the Supreme Court.
Right, before it got to the Supreme Court, there was one dissent, and that was Stevens. But I believe.
Oh, that was Justice Byron Stevens at the Supreme Court level.
Yeah, because look at when you go further out. Let me go to the top. Oh, okay. This is Justice Ginsburg. Okay, delivered the opinion of the court in 2005. Justice Ginsburg. So yes, this is the right one. The case concerns properties in blah, blah, blah. She delivered the opinions of the court. Justice Ginsburg, March 29, 2005. So yeah, I got the right one. But when you look here.
Now, wait a minute. You said 2005 or 2015?
2000. Let's see. It says Justice Ginsburg. I just had it, damn it.
Now, I saw at the top of the headline where it said City of Sherrill.
Right.
Yeah, City of Sherrill versus Oneida Indian Nation
of New York.
Exactly.
United States Code 197. That's 2005. But right here, it's saying that Justice Ginsburg.
It may have taken 10 years to get up to this point. My understanding, the judgment by the court was in 2015 under the Obama administration. But, you know.
Okay, so here it is, hon. Opinion Ginsburg, right? Mm-hmm. And concurrent Souter, dissent Stevens. So it says here. So this is the right one.
There you go.
See, City of Sherrill, blah, 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 writ of Superior to United States Court of Appeals, Second Circuit. But then it says Justice Ginsburg delivered the opinion of the court. This case concerns properties in the city of Sherrill, New York, purchased by the Oneida Indian Nation of New York. The separate parcels of land in question were last possessed by the Oneidas as a tribal entity in 1805. For 2 centuries, governance of the area in which the properties are located has been provided by the state of New York and its county and municipal units. In County of Oneida versus Oneida Nation of New York, this court held that the Oneidas stated a tribal claim for damages against the County of Oneida for wrongful possession of lands they conveyed to New York in 1795 in violation of federal law. In the instant action,
Wow, I heard the year 1795. Go
okay, and
ahead.
they're
Go
saying
ahead.
because they're saying I'll get back to that later because then it's going to throw everything off about them ceding their fucking lands to the state. But anyway, in the instant action, OIN resists the payment of property taxes to Sherrill on the ground that OIN's, that's the Oneida Nation, of course, acquisition of fee title to discrete parcels of historic reservation land revived by the Oneidas, ancient sovereignty piecemeal over each parcel. Consequently, the tribe maintains regulatory authority over OIN's newly purchased properties, no longer resides in Sherrill. So I don't know if the audience understands that. They're saying, okay, you purchased this after we gave you the reservation. So this new land you purchased, even though you're purchasing it back, you can't go and turn around and squeeze that in the reservation we gave you and say, okay, we're not taxed. Basically, this is what Ginsburg is saying. Correct?
I'm charting the same way you're charting.
Right. That's what
But
they're
now
saying.
they're
They're saying
saying this
we
judgment
gave you
is
a reservation and you bought land. Now we gave you a reservation space. Now you bought new land and you're saying using it as part of your reservation and saying it's not taxed. That's not the case. The land we gave you is Indian not taxed, but this shit, this is new shit you bought. No, you're not gonna squeeze it in. Whatever. I don't know. But anyway, our
that's
19
what that's one way of looking at it.
yeah,
But the thing
I
that's of
reading.
concern to me is the whole concept of reservation. But keep going, Chief. Go ahead.
Okay, so our 1985 decision recognized that the Oneidas could maintain a federal common law claim, you did every your favorite word, for damages for ancient wrongdoing in which both national and state governments were complicit. Today, we decline to project redress for the tribe into the present and future, thereby disrupting the governance of central New York's counties and towns. Generations have passed during which non Indians have owned and developed the area that once composed the tribe's historic reservation. In at least since the middle years of the 19th century, most of the Oneidas have resided elsewhere. Given the long-standing, distinctly non-Indian character of the area and its inhabitants, the regulatory authority constantly exercised by New York State and its counties and towns, and the Oneida's long delay in seeking judicial relief against parties other than the United States. We hold that the tribe cannot unilaterally revise its ancient sovereignty in whole or in part over the parcels at issue. The Oneidas long ago relinquished their reins of government and cannot regain them through open market purchases from current title holders. Yo, I'm done. Oneida, and okay, so that's the answer. This is what they're holding. They're saying we hold. That's the decision right there. They're told the Oneidas that we hold. That's the decision. That the tribe cannot unilaterally revised its ancient sovereignty in whole or in part over the parcels at issue. The Oneidas long ago relinquished the reins of government and can't regain them through open market purchases from the current title holders. So that's the decision right there. When you hear we hold, that's what they going with, what they rocking with the justices. So
Can you now? I don't know that you can pull that up at the same time because I was trying to refer to something similar and
did you
making
text
sure
it
that
to
we're
me
on
or
the same
email it
page.
to
I
me?
did. I just texted to you. But here's what I'm going to share with you from
I'm
the
forward
same
it.
ruling that you just shared. Now, this is something that's a different reference piece under the context of the doctrine of discovery because I want us to stay, somewhat focused on where we were. How a 15th century papal bull connects Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Christopher Columbus, and the land beneath you. Now, interesting, of course, they got one of these, hybrids in the photo under their title. Starts with the doctrine of discovery as a legal concept that has been used for more than 5 centuries to justify Western colonialism and imperialism. Operating as referees over Western European rulers at the time, a series of popes issued documents that gave papal blessing to Western European rulers to take lands occupied by non Christians and subjugate, and in some cases enslave, the peoples of those lands. It is through the doctrine of discovery that the present day United States was established over the territories inhabited by numerous indigenous people before the arrival of European colonists. Now, I'm going to scroll down to what was highlighted because I did a search for what we were talking about. Okay. I put Ruth Bader Ginsburg and doctrine of discovery. I just did that as the search parameters. Same case that you're talking
Wow.
about. Case in a nutshell, City of Sherrill versus Oneida Indian Nation of New York. Now,
Okay.
under that opinion, in an opinion authorized by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Supreme Court ruled that sovereign indigenous nations could not regain sovereignty over land once it had relinquished control over the land to parties subject to the jurisdiction of state governments. The opinion relied on the doctrine of discovery in its reasoning. The only dissent was filed by Justice John Paul Stevens, but while he would have granted the Oneida Nation sovereignty over the land, the doctrine of discovery itself remained unchallenged in his opinion.
Mm.
Now,
And an opinion
more.
authored by Justice. I got it up now. I finally got it up because when you guys text it to me, I have to forward it to my email so I can open it for the audience. So I
Mhm.
asked for it to be emailed. So, in the case in a nutshell, in an
Now, what's
opinion,
interesting underneath, now this is a different type of approach. I don't know if you ever use this like I did, but more information about the case, Supreme Court opinions and audio recordings they use underneath that,
mhm,
analysis and critique. Now, these are like blogs. Turtle Talk blog of Michigan State University Indigenous Law and Policy Center. Later on in this particular paragraph says, Turtle Talk is a blog based at the Michigan State University Indigenous Law and Policy Center that covers
mhm.
issues pertaining to indigenous nations and the courts. This page has posts about court cases involving indigenous nations that are tagged as intersecting with the ongoing implications of the precedent the Supreme Court created in City of Sherrill, New York, versus Oneida Indian Nation of New York. Now that would be interesting, if you want to, refer to that,
I
because
do. I'm
again,
going to
people
read it
make.
tonight. I'm going to read it slowly and break it down. I'm going to
Mhm.
read it because I never read that particular case because I'm interested to know if these fools sat up on the damn justice seat and made the damn Pope's word supreme law of the land. That's some serious shit because he spoke recently. So, hello. If he denounced it,
The
then
predicament is how people incorporate whether you consider it as mythology, folklore, or what has just become accepted as common knowledge, like Christopher Columbus himself. So, for example, let me share this with you here. This is about the city of Syracuse. An overview in 1934. The city of Syracuse erected and dedicated a monument to Christopher Columbus that stands outside the Onondaga County Courthouse. This was part of a larger effort at the time to symbolically recognize the contributions of Italian Americans to the United States and acknowledge the hostility that Italian Americans had faced. However, while Columbus represents to many Italian Americans a point of pride and sense of belonging to American history, and represents to other Americans the point at which American history begins, Indigenous peoples view Columbus as a symbol of their exclusion from American history and the figurative and literal erasure of Indigenous peoples in the creation of the United States. This has galvanized efforts by Indigenous Americans and allies to add greater historical context to the story of Columbus by incorporating Indigenous perspectives into the presentation of American history, something that will not be supported by Ron DeSantis in Florida. Just a side note. And it has spurred calls for the removal of monuments to Columbus and for changing place names eponymous with Columbus. Now, the reason why I point that out is because that goes hand in hand with what I said earlier, that any edicts that were put out by the papal bulls, and I saw, you got that link that I gave to you. You said that earlier in the link, how those things were used to underscore Western Europeans coming to America.
Correct.
No pun intended with the movie from Eddie Murphy. But this is the problem here, you see. It's not whether, it's kind of like that one metaphor is throw your rock and hide your hand. Another is people sent out and operated under false pretenses. You feel me? But at the end of the day, and this is what's very upsetting to me, because I don't know what your position on this, because I bow to you as a legal expert from being in the field for so long. But what is your understanding of possession as 9/10 of the law anyway? As a legal notion, because that is a legal notion, is it not?
Yes. But here's the thing. I'm sorry. I'm in over here munching my face off.
To me, the premise I'm making is the doctrine of discovery is giving that false pretext. If I discover something, I claim it, and I possess it, which actually is outright theft in the situation we're talking about with Aboriginal versus Native American versus federal recognition versus reservation distribution of land. You feel me? So if I go say I found something, I come to your house, I'm an invited guest to your home, but I go in your refrigerator and I found your ham and I took it.
You stole it.
I have it in my possession.
You stole it.
You get where I'm going with this analogy here.
Yep.
And you try to go to court and get your ham back from me, but they rule under the doctrine of discovery, possession is 9/10 of the law. So you standing on 1/10 to prove it's your possession. You see what I'm getting at here? Is that the situation, the predicament we find ourselves in? Besides the fact that we're completely ignorant that we are the only possessors to Aboriginal land.
Correct. But the problem is, like it says, it's difficult to enforce it if you don't got it.
Yeah. Which is what Andrew Jackson told Chief Justice John Marshall. Get down off that bench and enforce me not going land grabbing under the Indian Removal Act of 1830.
Right. I promise you, Ali Bouma, because I love it when a piece of law has my head spinning. I do. I really do. So what I'm going to do is sit down tonight. I swear, and put everything aside, and I'm going to read that case, and I'm going to divest that bitch. Excuse my language.
And I'm intrigued to understand what John Paul Stevens' dissent position would have been.
I'm going to read all of them. When I tell you I'm going to do all of them, I'm literally going to set shit aside.
It would be intriguing because sometimes they say they don't report it or publicly release it, But you know what concurring opinions
They do
are
release it.
from.
They have to.
Okay, so then if there are concurring opinions behind Ruth Bader Ginsburg from any of the seven other, they're not required to, once they pick a justice like her, to make a statement, if you will, because that supposedly is the official position of the court in
Mhm.
general on why we ruled in this fashion. But you'll have, you know what I mean? There's like these little fine legal perspective points that come out from people's differing opinions. And so the concurring opinion may say something other than what's stated in Ruth Bader Ginsburg's opinion.
Yeah, they all have their own different opinions,
Hmm.
but agree together at the end. However, from what I'm looking at, it was 8-1, so it looks like it was literally 8 people that concurred with her, and there was only one dissent. So
Hmm.
I'm going to go read all their
But
opinions.
remember,
And
like I
only
said
8-1.
earlier, in Plessy versus Ferguson, the dissenting justice is what your good brother, Thurgood Marshall, studied to overturn it in 1954 with Brown versus Board, Topeka, Kansas. So the dissenting opinion may have that kernel of truth, if you will,
To
to
overturn it.
stand on overturning all the evil that gets codified into law.
Mm,
Because all of this stuff is a criminal enterprise ongoing.
hmm
And all these rulings are doing are re-justifying the original crime
Correct.
under the doctrine of discovery.
Correct.
And so that's why I prefer to go to stuff like eminent domain, Chief Morning Thunder,
Hmm
because this particular case was literally a tax issue.
Uh-huh.
But eminent domain would be an act of replicating what doctrine of discovery is
Correct.
theft, land theft.
They use all
You
kinds of
see what I'm saying?
yeah, they use all kinds of pussyfoot decisions to take land by eminent domain. They tell you, oh,
Mhm.
we need it so that the damn light company
Public
can
good,
control up there. Public
yeah,
police
public
officers,
utilities,
bullshit.
especially we start getting into those dams for water distribution, electricity, the railroads. All of that is on Aboriginal land that is uncontested. I would argue uncontested because
And
when
not
our
even
lands and our towns are flooded, who the hell is going to contest it being drowned out?
facts. And not only that, do you know how many lands were taken by eminent domain because they think, oh, it's for the betterment of the public, like they fucking
Oh
creating
no, the better trick.
railroad tracks, okay?
No, the better trick, Queen, is abandoned land.
Yes.
That's when they go and adjudicate something
Oh yeah,
by
honey, I'm
pronouncing
right
it
there.
abandoned. That's just like doctrine of discovery. Oh, I found some shit. See, this is how these people were unleashed on the planet.
Right. To me, with when it comes to abandoned lands, all right, if we're looking at it from a legal perspective, first of all, you have no jurisdiction to make a determination that that fucking land is abandoned. Because if it's Indian lands, it's not abandoned. They can do what they want. You have no jurisdiction to make any fucking law on Indian land determining it abandoned. The Indian, you have no jurisdiction over them. So what the
Now
fuck
that's why
make
because
the
I
law
can't, I
on
don't play a
conferring
lawyer on
abandoned land?
TV, and I don't have legal jurisprudence background, but I'm just making an opinion.
But
And
common
that's why
sense,
I
you don't
always
need a legal
qualify
background to know
what I'm
that.
saying is what I'm repeating, what I heard.
Do you
Okay.
really need a legal background for that, though?
I
Really?
well that's why
If,
I'm making
if
certain
it's sitting
suggestions and you can
unoccupied,
correct me in my error,
if it's
Chief Morning
unoccupied
Thunder.
land,
But
if it's unoccupied land that belongs to the Indian and the Indian is
by
sovereign, you have
default,
no
any
jurisdiction.
land is supposed to be Aboriginal land. Can we agree
Right.
on something conceptually that should be agreed
Yes,
upon?
I
So
agree. I agree. 100%. I'm with you, Ali Boomer. I'm not against you. I'm not. I'm really
no,
not.
I'm not trying to change your thinking or to convince you. I'm just trying to make an observation and see whether it is either logical, truthful, or in error. So whatever I say, I always qualify. All I'm doing is repeating something I heard. Okay. And most of us are doing that, starting with K through 12, quote unquote, public education. So
Mm,
we're just repeating stuff we're conditioned to regurgitate without analysis, without contemplating. then that becomes dogma, right? That's
Okay.
indoctrination.
Right.
Once you challenge and check it, you question it, it must now stand under scrutiny. Isn't that supposedly the scientific method?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
then. So, all land on Turtle Island, referred to as the United States, which is a designation,
United Snakes.
is Aboriginal titled land. You said it, Mama Chief said it, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Empress Summer Rain. Anyone who has gone and compiled 10 to plus generations back, I think stand very solid on who their people are and what walks around in you called DNA. Okay. So until, according to UNDRIP and ADRIP, until it is declared, and that is also the definition of why fraud is an ongoing criminal enterprise, until the fraud is declared, the fraud exists.
Correct.
But it takes the person being defrauded to state, hey, fraud's being committed here. You think the people benefiting from the fraud is going to say, oops, my bad. I've been stealing your shit. I have good moral character. That's back to the Naturalization Act, by the way. Who the hell determined what good moral character was amongst these gang of thieves that's coming over here to discover somebody else's shit? You know?
So,
And then they're going to determine who becomes an alien citizen because all of them are aliens. So who was the alien enemy? You feel me?
uh-huh.
Now, if you're opposed to their criminal enterprise, I guess that definition means you're an enemy, right?
Right.
But if the criminal enterprise is being forced upon you, does your acting against some crime being committed against you makes you an enemy or makes you the party to be adjudicated in behalf of? But then that means filing in a court system somewhere. And I'm still waiting, Queen Mother, to this. Where's this common law court? They themselves
I
acknowledge
guess
that.
they would be the local state courts because they had to have those in
Mm,
order to be considered a state. So I don't know. You
mm.
tell me.
I'm
And
just saying. I'm just saying, Queen Mother. I'm
I
just
don't know.
repeating what I heard. and everything I repeat seems to be people violating the stuff that they put down. It, it, if I'm in error, please correct me, because I don't want to ever be in any discussions I have, whether it's on your panel, Ab Power, Chiefs, Cuddy. I'm not here to cause confusion. Okay,
Oh, you're
I'm,
fine.
I'm trying to bring clarity, more so for myself, so I'll stop repeating the lie I've been told for more than 6 decades. You feel me? So
Mm-hmm.
people holding it for 20 years, I'm thinking most of y'all need to shut the hell up. Because many of us been given this lie for 5, 6 decades or more. We think we know just a little bit more about how we've been lied to. You feel me?
I do.
That's the only thing that irritates me with people like, and I'm not going to name drop on your panel because I shouldn't be bringing any kind of filth into your house, Big Mama.
You're fine.
You know, we supposed to be protecting our mothers and daughters and our sisters' houses, aren't we?
Correct.
So that's why I'm saying this stench, these skunks at the party need to be ejected because you shouldn't be having to come up with air freshener. You feel me?
I do.
just an observation. So circling back to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I'm very intrigued that they chose her to be the spokesperson,
Well, they always do
spokeswoman.
that to the Jews because they're not Christians.
Hello.
They always use the Jews for the dirty work.
So then how do you go and argue that you have enacted under Christian edict a papal bull to do all of this stuff? Which begs the question, as I asked earlier in our conversation, why the current vicar of God on earth is desperately trying to remove himself from the active crime scene of worldwide genocide. See, because you notice that word's never brought up. And he was very slick where he went to Kennedy. You saw him get that war bonnet from the fake imposters, right? And do you know that person that handed him that war bonnet pronounced that part of where they were in Canada to be a part of Turtle Island? I don't know if you caught that.
No,
That
that's
was the
why I
first
said
time I heard a Mongoloid hybrid imposter declare they were standing as quote unquote first peoples on Turtle Island. Wonder where they got that from, Queen Mother. Big ups
they
to Dame, but I won't
they
say whether they will
they.
accredit you for bringing it to the attention of the public.
Well, I'm not even looking for no damn credit. All
I'm
I'm
not
worried
either.
about,
I'm not either,
you know
Queen.
what I'm
That's why
saying?
I'm
Some
pointing
people are
out
real
people
touchy
doing
over
what they
that.
do when they
Mm,
do it. Now you notice they're backtracking. They don't want to be referred to as Native Americans, though that is their designation. They
correct.
want desperately to be put under the umbrella of indigenous, which cannot be proven. They then
Exactly.
want to pronounce themselves to be first peoples because they stole the tribal name of the original Aboriginal
Originals
people.
people. Correct.
So when you are a thief or the recipient of ill-gotten gains, does that not make you equally complicit in the crime and the violation that has been committed?
Correct. They're
Okay,
in it
I
together.
I don't know, sister.
But
I'm gonna
they're
step
only
down
doing
off.
what this goddamn government allowed them to do. These individual states that, you know what? I'm not even going to go there right now.
Yeah, well, so I'm gonna step down off the witness stand. Not that you've been interrogating me, but I'm 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 gonna take my leave, Queen Mother. I certainly appreciate the invitation. Don't know that I helped in
No,
clarifying
you did, but
anything.
I got all those cases up, and I'm gonna go and sit back, and I'm gonna read all the dissent, the one dissenting opinion, and I'm gonna read all their individual opinions tonight, and then I'm gonna come back tomorrow with it because I never read this particular case. Especially, I didn't even know that a justice ruled the case on such doctrine. So, I mean, I don't know all the laws, but shit, I can read it and comprehend it.
Well, the
I'm not gonna do
reason why I
that.
sent you that link was because in that link they reference stating that this ruling opinion was based on the doctrine of discovery. Now, I'd love to see where the dots are actually connected.
I want to see them use those words in their opinions and in the case of holding the case based on that. That's what I'm going to
But
need.
remember what I
That
said, though, and the reason I sent you that link is because this is from judicial sources or university law schools, etc., who come to I hate to use the word opinion, but a agreed upon position. How about that?
mm,
Agreed upon position is the fundamental basis of presumption, right?
hmm
So everybody's presuming that the operation of land acquisition the world over, referred to as colonialism and imperialism, has its origins where?
doctrine of discovery from the
So
Vatican,
then, is this not an imperial empire called the United States government?
United Snakes government.
Is they the actual subjects of King George?
They are
Did
one
they
time
then
over.
say they rebelled against the monarchy? They call it the
Correct.
American Revolution, right? Then in 1787, they got government from us.
Correct.
Articles of Confederation, Organic Constitution. 1790, they did the first head count. And in the document of the Congress, who is not to be enumerated?
Indians,
Indians not
not taxed.
taxed. In that same year, they created a Naturalization Act to recruit who? More
Aliens.
criminals? More criminals.
Aliens
So,
and criminals.
under that definition, they created a status of whiteness, not skin color, not pigmentation. They
Classification of white.
created a white citizen. I don't know. I'm just repeating what I heard, Queen Mother.
Right.
So, the scene of the crime is 1790. The counting of the victims is the first Census Act. The enumerating and taxing of the Indian is fraudulent. Isn't that what the Constitution said?
Yes.
And the continuing
Perhaps.
of taxing and counting the Indian is an ongoing criminal enterprise based in fraud murder, massacre, and genocide. And you do know that murder and fraud has no time, no statute of limitation,
Correct.
and no constricting jurisdiction. Meaning wherever it happens,
So,
whenever it happens, it was a crime and is a crime and will be a crime until when? Declared and adjudicated.
adjudicated.
I
Okay.
don't know, my sister. I don't know. I'm confused. I'm just recapping for the slow bus individuals that may be listening on the replay.
Okay. So I'm just saying, I'm just asking, and this is just a silly question because we all know we need to look further into things. Since they wrote and defined a white classification, not skin color, as you say, classification, and knowing that there weren't that many of them over here in 1790, and they created that 1790 census. Okay, perhaps all the W's are really people that look like me and you. I'm just asking.
Well,
I
here,
don't
here
know.
again,
I
because
don't know.
again,
I'm just
I'm
asking
confused. I'm confused.
because it's
But
class.
what
It's
do
a
the
class.
Moors say the Treaty of Peace and Friendship designates? The first and foremost treaty acknowledging the United States of America's government. And when the Negro Act of 1740 in South Carolina was adjudicated by that state's legislature, they said what? I am not your Negro. And did they not fall under the so-called turban of the Sultan and said that they should not be treated as such? Do Moors not teach that status of white is theirs to choose? Do not these same ignorant Moors go to jail or get incarcerated or stand in front of a judge and claim they have a status of white, no matter how dark their skin pigmentation?
It
I'm just
seems to
asking. I
me.
mean, this is even in 2023. Is that behavior being exhibited?
Well, I said, and I
And
made a
do
truth.
not people like Michael Blackson have that on their documents and their green card, either Caucasian or white, and they are midnight? What does he say in his joke? I'm under the bed black.
Okay,
I'm
so but
1159,
I said that I
shy
was
of
not gonna,
midnight black.
I made a truce that I was not going to turn my nose up at the Moors.
I'm not talking about turning noses
Information,
up. I'm
but
saying what
until
Taj
I
Tariq
studied more.
Bey and Sabir Bey and other Jose Pimenta Baker, you know why I'm name dropping. I have heard individuals who teach more Science Temple of America, edict, doctrine, and law that white is a status. Yes or no, Queen Mother?
Yes, yes,
And
that's
so that
correct.
is not based on skin pigmentation, not
Correct.
based on the color of white. And I think Mama Chief is there to come with that law dictionary. If you didn't hear her chop it up the other day
I'm just
about
saying.
where there's no black in the law dictionary.
Well, all I'm saying is I'm not going to pick on the Moors until I've researched more and not be ignorant to their teachings
No,
because
I'm not even saying that to pick
I
on
do
them. I'm
want to learn,
saying,
but you
well, I'm
called
saying,
names and no, wait, let me clear myself, Allie Boomer. You called names and I don't want them thinking that I'm coming after them because that's not the case.
I got you. But I'm
Okay,
saying,
that's all
under
I'm
the
saying.
law and the record they report as history, 1740 Negro Act in South Carolina supposedly defined a Negro. And they said under treaty, is that, did we not discuss this already? The treaty is the supreme law of the land, right? Under the treaty of peace and friendship, I am not your Negro. You feel me? So Negro was used to define who with Spanish exploration that they called the Ethiops or the people kissed by the sun or dark complexion or God forbid, copper colored races of people. They referenced as negro, right?
Negro black.
Okay, so then in 1740, the legislature of South Carolina, which I think Negroes was running that shit, said
No.
the Negro Act should be created, but for who? This is an interesting thing to me, Queen Mother, because I'm waiting for the truth and the facts to come out. Because those Negroes they defined were the ones they put in chain, and they told them that two or more couldn't congregate. You feel what I'm saying? Have you ever looked up the Negro Act of South Carolina?
I'm gonna go read it again. I read it a couple of months ago when you were on, way
So
back
that was
earlier.
when they started
Earlier.
making Negroes in America. You feel what I'm getting at?
Mm-hmm.
And the Moors said, well, hold up, wait a minute. I am not your Negro. I fall under the subject of the Sultan of Morocco, and our status is white. I mean, hey, bro, I'm just repeating what I heard, Chief Morning Thunder.
I
So
got my
if I'm in error,
dictionary over
I
here.
will stand corrected if I'm in error. So if white is not based on complexion, skin pigmentation, then why is it deprived to the nigger in America? Because I think the nigger was made from the Negro in America. You feel me?
Yes. And you know what I find quite interesting? There's two times where you get persecuted. When we, the people that look like us, say we're Indian, you got murdered and assassinated. And when you try to pass for white, classify yourself as white. I mean,
You meaning like J. Edgar Hoover?
or when you say yourself was Indian. It's two times when you say yourself as Indian or when you say yourself as white.
When you got
No,
outed, when you got
right.
outed for
Correct.
passing, like J. Edgar Hoover,
Yes.
like Dwight David Eisenhower. You ever read J. A.
and,
Rogers'
and,
Five
and, and,
Negro?
and, and Abraham Lincoln.
You read J. A. Rogers' Five Negro Presidents, right?
No. And I want
You
you to
might want to get
text that to me.
you
Text
you
it to me
might
because
want to get that book.
I'm
Right?
gonna read this case tonight, but please text that to me.
Is that Mama Chief? So I said
Hi.
blessings to you, Queens. Before I skedaddle, I exit stage left like
Yeah,
Snagglepuss.
I'm getting ready to go
Hey,
too.
you
I want to
guys.
eat.
Hey,
Hi.
you guys. I just jumped up for a quick minute, Sister Bethy, if I will. And I got this information the other day from Tomahawk Tony. You know, he wrote the book with our history, right? And he said that the color thing came about this way, and y'all can just judge it by yourself. White, it was equaling the royalty, business, and the priest. That equal out the white supremacists. The black were soldiers, workers, and slaves. And now you got the gray, which is the foreigners who's coming in, taking over our business because we ain't doing our own business. And then they're also being our law enforcement. And I just wanted to share that information right there, you
Well,
guys.
Mama Chief, you do know there is a white pope, a black pope, and a gray pope, right?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
And their positions, yes, absolutely. The black pope is really the white pope.
Well,
Thank you,
sisters, as I've
Sister
said in
Becky, for
parting,
letting
all
me
I'm doing
know.
is
Yes,
repeating.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just repeating what I heard. Thank you, Mama Chief, for chopping it up the other day. Thank you too, Warrior Chiefess. I almost thought you were Warrior
Yes.
God. Xena, Warrior Princess.
I didn't know Tomahawk Tony. I didn't know Tomahawk Tony wrote a book. I have to
Yeah,
look into that
and
too.
that one and two, the we the people have been poisoned. I know you know about that one. Stop the genocide. They
I
probably get
think
both of them off of that website. Stop the
I want you to
genocide.
take that the book that you just told me about.
Oh, anything from J.A. Rogers. All you just have to do is look up J.A. Rogers.
You
Anything
need to
he's
text
written.
me that because I'm on here. I'm gonna forget as soon as I log off.
I got
Please
you.
text me. But
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna get off of here now and relax my head and eat dinner. And I'm gonna go start tackling that decision. I'm gonna tear that damn thing apart. Because if I think it's what it is, that's a problem. Because if he did not let me read it first before I go start getting all happy and stuff. So I'm gonna log off here, you guys. It was great, Ali Boom, and thank you for jumping in. I know you're busy, but I'll be back, and I'm gonna call you when I come back and say, "Okay, I'm ready for this shit." Because I'm going to read. I'm gonna go and bust that thing wide open
Well,
right now.
know, my queen, it's from the, what is it? Love, peace, and Afro Sheen Grease from the soul. Pray. Have a wonderful evening.
Same to you. And if I get too crazy, I might call you and say, "You know what I found?" So don't be surprised. Okay.
Yeah, you take care. Enjoy your afternoon.
Same to you. Hey, you guys, smash the like button. I'm about to get out of here. Go eat dinner. Catch some of Ab Powers' segment if you want to go over to his channel. He looks like he's talking about something interesting. Smash the like button on the way out. Thank you all for joining us today, and I hope that we opened up some eyes in here, and maybe you should read that decision too, because I'm certainly going to come back and address it from my perspective. So smash the like button on your way out. I love you guys, and I am so out of here. My God, I'm out of here. Oh God, I'm out.
What's good, Dama? ISO to the ND, yeah. Open up the door, watch all the G's forward. Smoke clouds follow while we hit another quarter. 50s in a carry-on, feel like a transporter. It's a privilege to know me, that's 100 on my broski. 1-2 punch, damn this thing hitting fully. Fresh pot of gumbo and we back up on our bully. Beat by Dama, shout out to the boy Cushy. Now I'm everything I could be, shades on with a hoodie. Off a little something, so you think I got my eyes closed. These is one and none, no baby, these is not those. Getting so much chicken block heads out of tacos. Getting so much packs like we gotta scan a bar.